Hello everybody. Now that we have the course introduction out of the way, this section we're going to be diving into some excellent British literature. The next few topic blocks discuss literature from the Middle Ages time period, which is dated approximately from about 450 AD to 1485 in England at least. It's helpful to view this literature through the lens of the medieval hero, because the warrior hero figure is such an important and strong archetype from this time period. And it makes sense, right? When you live in a world where invasion by brutal barbarian forces is a real constant threat, it is important that your people group is led by a strong warrior hero. So you can see why that's such an important archetype for the literature of this time period. The first work that we're going to be reading is Dream of the Rood, a work that superimposes the idea of the medieval hero on a story that many of you are probably already familiar with, the crucifixion of Jesus in the Christian tradition. So here's the basic plot line. A man who we'll call the dreamer has a dream or a vision, you could consider it that, or a vision of a rood appearing to him. Now, a rood, R-O-O-D, is an Old English word meaning cross. He describes the cross, which is bedecked with treasure, making him feel quite inadequate in its presence. Then, inexplicably, the cross actually begins to talk and begins to bleed from its right side. So this is a clue as to what the cross is. Those familiar with the story of Jesus' crucifixion may remember that Jesus was pierced with a spear on his right side. When the cross begins to speak, this employs the literary device of personification, which is when an inanimate object is given the ability or some ability that is human in nature. So the cross tells its story, beginning with being felled as a tree to make a cross, and ending with its being buried after the crucifixion, only to be unearthed years later by those loyal to Jesus. The cross reveals its conflicted feelings about its role in the crucifixion, just as the dreamer has conflicted feelings himself about the shame of his own sin and the hope of redemption offered by Jesus' sacrifice. As you read, pay attention to the portrayal of Jesus in this poem. The cross describes him in warrior-like terms that sometimes strike modern readers as curious. Keep in mind, however, that because warriors were admired and common subjects of stories, these medieval people may have seen in Jesus' story a warrior hero that we don't really recognize in our more civilized society. In other words, they may have imposed on Jesus their own cultural values as a way to understand his story. Viewed through this lens, the work has a lot to tell us about medieval culture. Now, the only assignment that you have for this section, other than reading Dream of the Rood, is a quiz. I don't have a forum set up for it. However, if you would like to discuss the work in more depth, be sure to respond in the I have an announcement posted in the Announcements and Questions forum, and you can respond to that forum there, and we can open up a class discussion for this section. Just a note about Dream of the Rood, you may have noticed me referring to it as a poem. However, when you pull up the PDF to read it, it's actually written in prose. The reason for that is that it was originally a poem when it was written in Middle English. However, when it was translated into modern English, because we can't read Old English without specialized training, it's almost like a foreign language. So when it was translated into the modern English version that we're reading, they chose to put it in prose form rather than poetic form. So that's why it was originally a poem, but our translation presents it as a prose work. I hope you enjoy Dream of the Rood, and I look forward to hearing from you all this semester. Thank you.